Welcome back. About a minute and a half to go until gavel time as we look at Lamar Alexander and as we have a story we're covering.
Well, we just got this statement coming across the wire from Representative Engel, who adds this to the public discourse today about his interactions with Ambassador John Bolton, the man of the hour. He says that he, John Bolton, and I spoke by telephone on September 23rd, and on that call, Ambassador Bolton suggested to me, unprompted, that the committee, he's the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, look into the recall of Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch. He, John Bolton, strongly implied that something improper had occurred around her removal as our top diplomat in Kiev. I mean, Jeff Bennett joins us now from Capitol Hill. This is sort of whistleblower 2.0. This is John Bolton telling a Democratic House committee chair to investigate the removal of Marie Yovanovitch. We now know that was ordered by Donald Trump, executed by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and polluted by Rudy Giuliani and Lev Parnas. What is the impact of this revelation, and why is it coming out now?
It's really remarkable. I mean, John Bolton was telling Eliot Engel to look into this Marie Yovanovitch situation well before Marie Yovanovitch was a household name among those of us who closely follow the news. So in that statement, Eliot Engel, the Democrat from New York who chairs the House Foreign Affairs Committee, says that he told his staff to reach out to John Bolton on September 19th. Engel says that he and Bolton had a long relationship, a cordial relationship, and he wanted to thank him for his service. They ultimately ended up speaking on September 23rd, and that's when Bolton relayed his concerns about the ouster of Marie Yovanovitch. September 24th, that very next day, is when House Speaker Nancy Pelosi fully embraced the impeachment inquiry, making clear that those six respective committees would do the work that ultimately led to impeachment, which then brought us, of course, to this trial. So this is just another data point in this simmering Senate saga, really, surrounding John Bolton's potential testimony. And you have to imagine, as you mentioned earlier this hour, this book comes out in 3 weeks. You can imagine day by day there will be more developments like this. And so senators have a real practical, this is not an academic exercise for them. This is a real practical decision they need to make about whether or not they want to move to acquittal these Republican senators without hearing from John Bolton himself. Brian and Nicole.
This is more than simmering, though, Brian. I mean, we talked yesterday about an active volcano. This is another eruption. The two revelations that the Times reported on Sunday are John Bolton puts himself in the room with the president tying aid for Ukraine to investigations into the Bidens. This is the second eruption of the same volcano. If he's suggesting that he called a Democrat, he called a Democratic committee chairman and said, investigate the removal of Marie Yovanovitch. We know from the 17 witnesses that testified in the House Intel Committee investigation that Marie Yovanovitch herself was warned that she could be in danger by the State Department. We know that Mike Pompeo, who's screaming and yelling and ranting and raving and huffing and puffing like he's too hangry to take it anymore, yelling at reporters who are still asking about this. We know he's got something to hide. We have reason to believe he's hired lawyers and has some political and perhaps even legal concerns. And we know that the smear campaign executed by Rudy Giuliani is something that Lev Parnas told our own colleague Rachel Maddow Bill Barr knew about, Donald Trump knew about, and everyone else, they all knew, which is an echo, if you will, of Sondland's testimony. They were all in on it. This feels like a second smoking gun designed to influence or shake loose some of those Republicans Mitt Romney's trying to protect on a witness vote.
And you couldn't see this while you were reading the story, introducing it. Rob Portman walked by our camera.
Rob Portman was on the phone with Donald Trump the day the aid came out. So you talk about a web of complicit and knowing actors in what feels like a far bigger scandal that, again, if these Republican senators want to walk off a cliff and say, I'll wait 3 weeks to see what else is in the Bolton book, I bet Democrats are getting to the point where they say, go ahead, make my day.
And I think I can explain why Engel waited. If you had a private conversation with somebody who'd been part of the Trump administration, you would not want to be the one to out him as blowing the whistle on the Trump administration. But now that the book has come out and Engel is confident that Bolton is going to tell the story publicly, he obviously is much more comfortable sharing the details of that private conversation. It makes sense, the timeline, if you think of it from the context of Engel trying to respect Bolton's privacy.
I think there also is concern in Bolton world that what's out isn't it. So if Republican senators think they're making a decision with the worst of it, that is not the case.
I'm sorry, Brian. I was just going to ask if this news can be incorporated in a question, in the language of a question, to get it on the record
Oh, that's
in
a
front
big
of this well of the Senate and in front of a
Or does it have
national
to stay
audience?
germane to...
Can a question begin with, just this morning from the other chamber, we learned?
It's probably why the question list has not been disseminated, because they may want to change questions as time goes along. Because with the way things are
Accommodate
breaking, there may be a whole nother things that need to be asked about tomorrow that need to be asked about today.
Sorry, Michael.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And again, this is why Mitch McConnell wants this thing to end by
Kickoff.
Just because the drip of further facts and information makes it harder and harder to hold those members in place at 3. To the points that were made earlier, if you get a 4th, there are another 5 that are behind that 4th member. And that's the problem they're trying to avoid.
And listen, we have to wait and see if Bolton responds or quibbles with any of this, but just this language is stunning. Bolton and I spoke by telephone on September 23rd. As you said, the next day, Pelosi embraced impeachment. On that call, Ambassador Bolton suggested to me, unprompted, this is the Democratic chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, that the committee, led by Democrats, look into the recall of Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch. He, John Bolton, strongly implied that something improper had occurred around her removal as our top diplomat. He, John Bolton, also sent 2, maybe 3 of his deputies to the White House counsel's office. So something improper in his mind may have meant something illegal.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.